allege that the intel report suggests that there could be external interference in the West Bengal Waqf riots. Our deep dive conversation today, where we're going to take you through the Blue Smart debacle. Very unfortunate for a cab service that had 5-star ratings, has now been shut, terminated service in Delhi NCR region and Bengaluru because the owners have defrauded, allegations from SEBI. And finally, our viral watch, where we're looking at some pet people there. An app that's come out showing what a human would look like if he was a pet, or what a pet would look like if he or she was a human. A lot of that right after the headlines. West Bengal government submits report on violence in Kolkata High Court, assures court that the situation is under control and violence hit Murshidabad. Delegation of Dawoodi Bohra community meets with the Prime Minister Modi today to thank him for the Waqf Amendment Act. They say it was a long pending demand of the community, and thank you, Prime Minister, for enacting the Waqf bill. No consensus at the Karnataka cabinet meet on caste census report. The next meeting is to be held on April 24th. We are looking at dissent within the cabinet itself in Karnataka. Many Vokkaliga, Lingayat leaders unhappy with the survey report. Siddaramaiah says, give all your suggestions in writing. We will consider and hold the next meeting on 24th. Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan slams the BJP RSS over Waqf Act. Kerala Chief Minister alleges the RSS inherently has disliked minorities. They have always called the minorities as internal enemies of the country. Trouble for Tamil Nadu Minister K. Ponmudi for his comments on Hindu symbols. Madras High Court directs the police to file an FIR against him. War of words escalates over cow deaths in TTD Gaushala. TTD chairperson and YSRCP leaders stage a protest. We're looking at many YSRCP leaders who wanted to protest were tied up in a house arrest. Maharashtra government's big move amid growing language row. The state government makes Hindi compulsory as a third language from class 5. Now here this man, remember, who went viral for owning this very fancy dog that's worth 50 crores. ED raids him. ED visited his home after reports surfaced that he had imported this dog for 50 crores, which is said to be the world's most expensive. We've got to wait and see what the ED finds. Trump has blocked a planned Israeli strike on Iranian nuclear sites in favor of negotiating a deal with Iran to limit its nuclear program, a fresh report reveals. Delhi strikes, the first blow against schools over fee hike. In what could really set a national precedent here, the Delhi government has cracked the whip on private schools over unscientific fee hikes. After inspecting over 600 schools, show-cause notices have been slapped on 11 institutions of Delhi, all named in parental complaints of steep sudden hikes. District-level probe committees, led by SDMs, including senior education officials, have now been tasked with auditing these schools and submitting a detailed report on why and how schools were arbitrarily raised their fees. Delhi Education Minister Ashish Sood has blamed the previous AAP regime for turning a blind eye, accusing it of focusing more on elections rather than the capital's classrooms. This crackdown comes amid growing national outrage. Remember, a recent survey found private schools across India have raised fees by nearly 80% in the past 3 years, often without justification, pushing many parents to the brink and threatening access to quality education. With Delhi making the first move here, will other states follow suit is a big question. The call for a pan-India check on private schools' profiteering is only growing louder.
जो लोग लगातार फी हाइक के मुद्दे पर 5 साल से डीपीएस के नकेल नहीं कस पाए थे, आज हमारी डीएम हेडेड कमेटी के कारण, हमारी सरकार के प्रयासों के कारण, मुख्यमंत्री रेखा गुप्ता जी की सरकार के प्रयासों के कारण आज डीपीएस को 5 साल बाद अपने स्टैंड आज कोर्ट से लताड़ पड़ी और हम डीएम हेडेड कमेटी की रिपोर्ट के आधार पर डीपीएस पे कड़ी से कड़ी कार्रवाई करेंगे.
The court has clearly stated that the students should not be prevented from attending the regular classes. They should be given access to the community amenities and no kind of segregation or any unjustified segregation be done. And even the court has given a direction to the Directorate of Education and to the District Magistrate that they will go and conduct inspections regularly so as to ensure that no sort of discriminatory tactics is adopted by the school, that is DPS Dwarka.
All right, there seems to be some fresh clues in Murshidabad riot probe. Cross-border links and prison escapees and terror videos that have now surfaced. Explosive new details are emerging from the Murshidabad riots investigation. Intelligence sources now confirm that some of the key investigators were Bangladeshi prison escapees, men who had fled high-security jails in Dhaka and Chittagong. They were allegedly crossed into India disguised in burqas and led a violent mob in Dhulian, pelting stones, fueling chaos there. The agencies have found foreign escapees involved in Murshidabad riots. They entered West Bengal in disguise, some claim in burqas. Radical videos shared ahead of the violence to incite and call to divide India and provoke unrest. These are the claims made by the intel agency's report. At the center of the probe here is a hate video by the Jashimuddin Rahmani, head of the Asarullah Bangla team linked to Al-Qaeda. In it, Rahmani issues a threat as well to India, calls on Bengal to raise their voice against the center. Now, he's even invoked China and the Northeast in a bid to stoke separatist sentiment. So this, the intel says, has instigated crowds largely in West Bengal to launch those riots right after the Waqf Act was passed. Security officials say that this video was widely circulated among the attackers, a clear attempt to incite. West Bengal police has now set up a 9-member SIT team. Meanwhile, several accused are still believed to be possibly trying to flee the country. The incident has reignited concerns now over porous borders and the urgent need to strengthen India's borders with Bangladesh and, of course, the need for coordination with the neighboring country.
बीएसएफ अगर अलाउ किया तो बॉर्डर मैनेजमेंट, स्टेट पुलिस, डीएम, एसपी और बीएसएफ के अधिकारी मैनेजमेंट के प्लान करते हैं. हर महीना मीटिंग होना चाहिए. तो केंद्रीय होम सरकार मिनिस्ट्री को भी बात देखना चाहिए कि क्यों बॉर्डर मैनेजमेंट ठीक से नहीं हो रहा है. आज क्यों ममता बनर्जी भी बोल रही है और बीए भी बोल रहे हैं कि बांग्लादेश से लोग आकर के यहाँ पे हंगामा किया. इसका मतलब जो सांप्रदायिक तत्व हमारे राज्य के अंदर है उसको वो भरोसा दिला रहे हैं कि तुम्हारे ऊपर कुछ नहीं होगा.
All right, we're looking at the big day here for those who petition against the Waqf at the top court. No action until May 5th. That's what the Supreme Court says. Supreme Court today resumed hearing pleas against the Waqf Amendment Act of 2025. While it did not stay the law, the centre gave some key assurances, and that includes no Waqf property declared, registered or under Waqf by user will be touched until May 5th. No new appointments will be made to any Waqf board until then. Provisions of the amended act will not be enforced for now. Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud also made it quite clear there that no property already registered under the 1995 law can be denotified until further orders. The centre must now file its preliminary response within a week's time. Over 70 petitions have been clubbed together in this case, underlining the scale of the legal challenge. Petitions challenge the constitutional validity of the Waqf Amendment Act 2025, arguing that it violates Article 14, the right to equality, and Article 26, freedom to manage religious affairs of the Constitution. Next hearing, 5th of May.
This is intended in any manner to prejudge the issue, which has been heard at length yesterday and today, and will also be heard for further interim relief, etc. on 5th. The Waqf Amendment Act is not an exercise in efficiency. as it pretends to be. Religious autonomy is being reduced to state-administered protocol, and community rights are being redrawn with bureaucratic pens. Let us be clear, this is not about improving institutions, this is about infiltrating them, controlling them and closing them.
देखिए, मैं तहे दिल से शुक्रगुजार हूं आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट के तमाम जजेस का, तमाम वकीलों का, जिन्होंने आज धर्म से ऊपर उठ करके हमारे लिए खड़े हुए, मेहनत की, साथ दिया इस मुल्क को बचाने का। तो मैं आज हम इस फैसले से पूरी तरह से मुतमईन हैं। जिस तरह से आज केंद्र सरकार ने आकर कहा कि जो भी हम किसी किस्म का कोई रजिस्ट्रेशन हम नया नहीं करेंगे, कोई छेड़छाड़ नहीं करेंगे, जो वक्फ बाय यूज इस्तेमाल होती आई हैं प्रॉपर्टियां वो रहेंगी, जो मसाजिद हैं, जो दरगाहें हैं, जो कब्रिस्तान हैं, तमाम ऐसे ही रहेगा, और वक्फ के जो मेंबर हैं उसके अंदर भी किसी किस्म की वो छेड़छाड़ नहीं करेंगे, किसी किस्म का अपॉइंटमेंट मेंबर का नहीं करेंगे, बोर्ड नहीं बनाएंगे।
The Supreme Court has said that the Central Waqf Council and the State Waqf Boards will not be constituted. Waqf by user cannot be deleted. Now, there are other provisions also which we as a party have come to the Honorable Supreme Court that calling it unconstitutional. Now, whenever it will be heard, our counsel, Mr. Nizam Pasha, on behalf of me, will be arguing it. So our legal battle will continue to ensure that this act, against this act will continue.
माननीय अदालत ने कहा कि जो वक्फ व यूजर है, जो रजिस्टर्ड हैं और गैजेटेड हैं, उसको गवर्नमेंट डी नोटिफाई नहीं करेगी टिल द नेक्स्ट डेट। तो बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट बात है कि जो रजिस्टर्ड एंड गैजेटेड हैं वही सिर्फ डी नोटिफाई नहीं होंगे, उसके अलावा संशोधन के हिसाब से सरकार कार्रवाई करने को स्वतंत्र है, और जो संशोधित कानून है उस पर किसी भी तरह का अंतरिम आदेश नहीं है, और अगली तारीख तक भारत सरकार को अपना जवाब और उनको जो भी डॉक्यूमेंट्स देने हैं वो देने होंगे।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट says that it is unconstitutional because of Article 25, which says that freedom of religion and freedom of conscience and freedom of religion to follow, pursue and propagate any religion, that is comes under Article 25, which falls under fundamental rights. The government has no role to play. Maybe that is the reason why the court had observed like that. Present BJP government does not respect the constitution. They violate the constitutional provisions in all matters. They have their agenda. They are against this constitution, I can say.
Shifting our focus to Tamil Nadu, we're looking at TVK chief Thalapathy Vijay faces fatwa from a cleric sitting in Uttar Pradesh who says Muslims should not be friendly with Vijay because he shows Muslims in his films, and also his recently held iftar party had a lot of drunkards there. It's an insult to Muslim community. Thalapathy Vijay, Tamil cinema's mega star who's now turned a politician. His political foray will be established in 2026. He's gearing up for that. He's facing full-blown backlash from a cleric based in Uttar Pradesh, where it appears what he tried to do as goodwill gesture has backfired altogether. Remember, on March 7th, Vijay, dressed in a white kurta pajama, a skull cap, stood shoulder to shoulder with fasting Muslims in Tamil Nadu, offering namaz, and hosted an iftar at Chennai's YMCA grounds. The visuals were designed to send out a message that he's a leader for all, cutting across communities, particularly he stands with the minorities. Now that he's also fought in the Supreme Court, filed a petition against the Waqf Act. But what was meant to be a show of solidarity has now spiraled into a controversy that cuts deep into faith in politics and public sentiment. A fatwa has been issued against Vijay by Maulana Shahabuddin Razvi of Bareilly. Remember, Maulana Razvi is known to make some statements that are bold and raises controversy, and this is one among them. The president of the All India Muslim Jamaat, he's raised a fatwa against Vijay, saying Vijay's films allegedly show Muslims as terrorists, and his iftar guest list included gamblers and liquor consumers, an affront, he says, to the sanctity of the occasion. Sunni Muslims in Tamil Nadu have echoed this anger. The Tamil Nadu Sunnat Jamaat has filed a formal complaint with the Chennai Police Commissioner accusing the actor and politician of disrespecting Islamic values. The group claims that the iftar was poorly managed, that drunkards and rowdies were present, that foreign security guards allegedly misbehaved with the attendees. Adding fuel to the fire, they've cited that Vijay's past political event in Vikravandi, where supporters were allegedly left dehydrated under the sun due to poor planning. Their warning this time was, this isn't just bad optics, it's sacrilege. While supporters hailed Vijay's outreach, many of them who like and love Vijay say that this outreach was great. He shows his secular mindset and unity among communities. Critics there looking at this as shallow tokenism, a calculated attempt to win over minority votes ahead of the 2026 assembly debut of Vijay. Now, in the midst of all this communal and political churn, of course, the question here is whether did Vijay itself cross the line in the name of inclusion, or is he paying the price now for daring to bridge the divide in our polarized landscape?
तमिलनाडु की एक मशहूर शख्सियत है जिनका नाम विजय थलापति है। उन्होंने फिल्मी दुनिया में रहते हुए अपने कई फिल्मों में मुसलमानों को आतंकवादी के शक्ल में पेश किया, मुसलमानों को शैतान के रूप में पेश किया और यानी मुसलमानों को बदनाम करने के लिए उन्होंने तरह तरह की कोशिशें की हैं। और अब वो एक अपना सियासी चेहरा लेकर के मुसलमानों के दरमियान जा रहे हैं और मुसलमानों के अंदर अपनी पेट बनाना चाहते हैं, मुसलमानों से हमदर्दी का इजहार कर रहे हैं, मुसलमानों से जुड़ना चाहते हैं। और अभी रोज़ा इफ्तार कराया, तो रोज़ा इफ्तार में उन्होंने शराबी, जुआरी, कबाबी, असामाजिक तख्त, मंशियात का इस्तेमाल करने वाले लोगों को उन्होंने बुलाया। तो ये तमाम चीज़ों को लेकर के तमिलनाडु के मुसलमान विजय थलापति से बहुत नाराज हैं और इस फतवे के जरिए हमने जो है वो तमाम तमिलनाडु के मुसलमानों को आगाह किया है कि विजय थलापति से न जुड़ें, उनके साथ इजहार हमदर्दी न करें और न ही उनको अपनी मजलिसों में बुलाएं और न ही उनके साथ में जुड़ें।
Now, Tamil Nadu's iconic Iruttukkadai halwa is currently in the middle of a bitter family feud. Sri Kanishka, the heiress to the century-old sweet shop, has filed a dowry harassment case against her husband Balram Singh and his family, accusing them of demanding a stake in the legendary halwa business. Why I bring the story here is, of course, one who knows Tamil Nadu well or is from there will know the importance and the relevance, its cultural significance. The Iruttukkadai halwa is known to be one of the most famous sweets that you could access in Tamil Nadu. And there you have N.K. Stalin, the Chief Minister himself, seen there at the shop. Now, Kanishka's mother, Kavita Singh, who currently runs the Tirunelveli-based shop, alleges that after the wedding in Feb, the groom's side was given jewellery, cash and a luxury car worth 1.5 crores. Soon after they allegedly began, she claims that they allegedly began pressurizing for ownership in Iruttukkadai. By April, Kanishka left her marital home in Coimbatore, citing harassment and coercion. In fact, Balram's family has denied all charges, calling the complaint as baseless. The Tirunelveli Police Commissioner, as one of Tamil Nadu's most loved legacies, faces this ugly turn.
டவுரியா வந்து நகை கேஷ் நிறைய வந்து ஒயிட்லேயும் நாங்கள் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். இந்த 1.5 கோடி ரூபா டிஃபெண்டர் கார் வேணும்னு புக் பண்ணிட்டோம். லேட் ஆகும்போது அதுவும் ஏன் லேட்டுன்னு சொல்லி அவ்வளோ டார்ச்சரு. என் பொண்ணை ஃபிசிக்கலாக ரொம்ப ஹராஸ் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. அவள் இங்கே வந்த உடனே நான் அன்கான்சியஸ் ஆகி காவேரி ஹாஸ்பிட்டல் அட்மிட் ஆகி அவர் அப்பாட்ட பேசுனா அவர் வந்து என் தொழிலே உண்மையை பொய்யா சொல்கிறதும் பொய்யை உண்மையாக சொல்கிறது தான் இருக்குது. நான் எனக்கு பிஜேபி சப்போர்ட் இருக்குது. இது போக எனக்கு பிஜேபி சென்ட்ரல் கவர்மெண்ட்லேருந்து ஸ்டாண்டிங் கவுன்சிலில் போஸ்டிங் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. அதனால எந்த டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்னாலையும் எந்த ஒரு டாக்குமெண்ட்டையும் நான் வந்து பொய்யா அங்கே வந்து கொடுத்துருவேன். உண்மையாக இருக்கிறத பொய்யாக்குவேன், பொய்யா இருக்கிறத உண்மையாக்குவேன். இதுக்கு நீங்கள் சப்போர்ட் பண்ணலை அப்படின்னா உங்களை யாரும் வாழ விடவே மாட்டேன். எனக்கு பிஸ்னஸ் எழுதி கொடுத்தே ஆகணும்.
Now, in Andhra Pradesh, a holy storm is brewing there. It's not just political but religious this time. YSRCP leaders have raised an alarm claiming over 100 cows have died at the sacred TTD Gaushala in Tirupati in just 3 months. They allege neglect and mismanagement and a cover-up. But it's not just about the cows. The YSRCP says their leaders were denied entry into the cow shelter, with one even placing, in fact, one of their leaders being placed under house arrest to block an inspection. They're accusing the state-run Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam and the ruling TDP of using police to shield the truth. The TDP has hit back, daring YSRCP to inspect both cow shelters under TTD's watch, insisting their record is clean. Police also deny any house arrests there or blockage. They claim that we did not stop YSRCP from protesting. But the standoff is now only escalating, with protests led by senior YSRCP figures like former TTD chairperson Bhumana Karunakar Reddy and Tirupati MP M. Gurumurthy. Now, what began as a question of cow care has turned into a full-blown political clash, mixing devotion, death, and a deep distrust.
Over 100 cows have died in the TTD Goshala in just 3 months. A shocking and heartbreaking tragedy has been neglected by the coalition government led by Sri Chandrababu Naidu and Deputy CM Sri Pawan Kalyan. Despite their claims of upholding Sanatana Dharma, no post-mortem were done and an unqualified officer was appointed to manage the Goshala.
The former chairman of Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, an ex-MLA from YSRCP, is spreading false information about Gosala. The Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu ji has condemned such irresponsible remarks. Today, all our MLAs have gone there to prove the false statements of the YSR party. So, it is very clear that they stand exposed, that their allegations are false, and our MLAs on the field there have challenged them and have shown all the proof that the allegations which are being made done by YSR party is baseless. The Chief Minister and our leader Lokesh ji has made it absolutely clear that we protect the sentiments of Hindus, and such baseless allegations are not welcome and strongly condemnable.
All right, there seems to be some good news for Indians and the Indian economy. Even as the world economy stares at a slowdown, India remains at its fast-growing major economy. The growth rate is certainly impressive. A fresh UNCTAD report pegs India's growth at 6.5% in 2025, a slight dip from last year's 6.9%, but we're still going strong. The momentum here, it says, is powered by high public spending and the RBI's surprise rate cut that happened in February. The first in 5 years, expected to fire up private investment and consumption. The global picture, though, is worrying. Growth is expected to fall to 2.3% next year, dragged down by trade tensions, financial shocks, and rising uncertainty. South Asia is projected to grow at 5.6%, but countries like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh are battling food inflation and rising. UNCTAD also flags a troubling spike in trade policy uncertainty, slowing down investments and hiring across the globe. The silver lining, South-South trade now makes up a third of the global trade, a cushion certainly for developing nations. The call from UNCTAD is to coordinate policy, calm markets, and protect the vulnerable. That's the message. Right. Donald Trump seems to be in trouble as courts in the United States have sounded an alert, claiming that he may have violated court's orders, basically contempt of court allegation against him, stunning rebuke of for the Trump administration there in the US federal court. Judges ruled there's probable case and cause to hold Trump officials in criminal contempt for ignoring the court's orders to halt deportation. Despite court's orders, deportation continued. Here's more on what's happened.
A U.S. federal judge on Wednesday ruled that Trump administration officials could face criminal contempt charges for violating an order halting deportations of alleged members of a Venezuelan gang who had no chance to challenge their removals. In a written ruling, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg found probable cause to hold Trump officials in criminal contempt of court, saying the administration demonstrated willful disregard for his March 15th order, barring the government from deporting alleged members of a Venezuelan gang to El Salvador under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. He pointed to an ex-post retweeted by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in which El Salvador President Nayib Bukele shared a link to a news story about Boasberg's order blocking deportations and said, "Oopsie, too late." The ruling is the closest any judge has come to suggesting the administration could be punished since Trump returned to the White House, and it escalates the confrontation between the judicial and executive branches of government. A Justice Department spokesperson said Boasberg's, quote, underhanded attempt to maintain power over this case is a judicial power grab that the Department of Justice will fight by all means necessary. Many of the migrants' lawyers and family members say the deportees are not gang members and were never given a chance to contest the U.S. government's assertion that they were.
Right. Anti-government protesters in Serbia held a moment of silence for the victims of a deadly railway station roof collapse. Tragedy has killed 16 people, sparked months of street protests against Serbian government. What began as a student-led rally has now turned into Serbia's biggest political challenge in over a decade, with protesters blaming corruption and negligence for the disaster. Calls for accountability now growing louder. We have huge crowds there who are gathering there, and they seem to be slamming the political party, ruling party there. And this seems to be the biggest face-off that the Serbian government has faced in recent times. On that note, we're slipping into a short break. We'll be right back with our deep dive segment where we take you through the big Blue Smart debacle. They've now stopped operations in Delhi, NCR and Bengaluru after SEBI found huge financial fraud. More on that on the other side.
Beyond better, the new Tiguan R-Line. Volkswagen.
What a save! What a save!
I need expert savings. I need my carrier.
Smash your way to glory at the News 9 Corporate Badminton Championship. Get ready for the ultimate badminton showdown. News 9 presents the biggest corporate championship, a battle of skill, speed and supremacy. Cash prize of 6 lakh rupees across categories. Venue, Pulela Gopichand Badminton Academy, Hyderabad. Dates, May 9th to May 11th. A chance to showcase your talent and make a mark. The court is set. Are you ready? Register now.
Within Gen Z, everyone is not the same. So you may have, again, different people. Let's say someone is turned on by price, someone else is turned on by benefit. How do you actually, today you have the options of actually tweaking multiple creatives and running them to different audiences, right? So this would be, mastering these, therefore, becoming, our jobs are possibly going to become more and more analytical to understand what's working, what's not working, constantly tweak. So these are some of the trends, I think, which will help the marketers of tomorrow.
I'm really pained bringing you this story today. It's all over the news. I have to detail what exactly happened here. Remember, Blue Smart has now stopped operations in Delhi NCR and Bengaluru regions. SEBI has found some large-scale financial fraud. Blue Smart, its name on clean energy and cleaner service. India's first all-electric cab fleet that promised zero emissions and zero excuses. Behind the smooth ride, though, and that 5-star rating it boasted of, SEBI says was a financial fraud that was running into nearly 262 crores. Government loans that were meant to drive India's EV revolution were allegedly funneled into luxury apartments, golf gear, foreign trips, personal credit card payments. In fact, this is so personal to me because I've used Blue Smart for years. In fact, I often use it even now, and I've found myself raving about it. The best service, I could say. Drivers are so professional, the cars are so clean, they're on time, right? They have no excuses. The experience felt very reliable and also safe. No last minute changes. We know the car was sanitized, there was no fuel smell, no noisy engines, no dirty back seats. Honestly, it was miles ahead of many other cab services, cab aggregators that provided the same service. I could surely say Blue Smart was one of the finest. I did recommend it myself to many of my friends. The best part was, unlike many other aggregators, if you see, all Blue Smart cars look alike. So there's no surprises, a rundown car turning up to pick you up. Which is why this probe certainly hits harder. What SEBI found here is shocking. Only 4,704 EVs were purchased, which is short of 6,400 that they claimed to buy. So where did all that money go that was that was due to buy that many more cars? That did not happen. So clearly money was diverted. SEBI's signals were, of course, alert. And they tried to probe and found a deserted plant in Pune, fake pre-orders, forged loan records and inflated delivery numbers. Shockingly, 43 crores were spent on a camellia's flat in Gurgaon. 26 lakhs spent on a golf set. 11 crores routed to a family member, multiple family members. In fact, 2.9 crores transferred to one particular family member, Mugdha Kaur Jaggi, who is the wife of Anmol Jaggi and is an IAS officer. 50 lakhs of that money was invested in Ashneer Grover's third unicorn, plus several foreign trips, Titan watches, credit card bills, all allegedly paid for through EV-linked loans. Now, rupees 424 crores flowed from Gensol to a company called Velray. This is what the investigative report has found. Nearly 382 crores was routed after that. SEBI calls this a calculated diversion of funds. Gensol's stock has collapsed by 48%. It's a public listed company. In a month's time, it's nosedived. Blue Smart is now exploring a partnership with Uber to stay afloat. This surely wasn't a messy startup error for sure. This was an engineered breach of trust with public money, investor faith, and the credibility of India's EV transition on the line. I believe this company was building the future. In fact, what I did certainly believe was this company had the future in mind. It was living the future. What I see and saw through Blue Smart was the future has arrived. Now it's caught in this scandal that could cost everything, especially nearly 1,500 odd staff members, employees of Blue Smart. What happens to them? Will they get a bailout? Unlike other cab aggregators who own, many drivers own the cars and are tied up to Uber, Ola, etc. But Blue Smart hired drivers and had their own cars. So what happens to many of those drivers? In fact, all of them. We're hoping this deal with Uber because this is about their bread and butter and it's a large population we're talking about, over 1,200 odd drivers, staff members. Let me take our guest in to give us a little more perspective on the story. Vinkesh Gulati, Vice President, Automotive Skills Development Council and former President, FADA. Thanks very much as an automobile expert. I'm trusting you to give us a sense of how this fraud panned out. Mahendra Swaroop, former Chairman, Startup Association of India and Managing Partner, Ankurit Capital. Sir, if I could ask our automobile expert here, Vinkesh, we know that EV is something that India has been ambitious about. how could such large-scale fund diversion, though, go unnoticed? In fact, lenders' money has come in through the government. That money has to be used for EV purchases. This money was diverted elsewhere, and it was so easily moved out to family members' accounts, buying apartments, buying luxury holidays, a 25 lakh worth golf kit. This was absolute luxury, all with the money that was taken through government loans and public funds.
See, actually, one thing you should agree that Blue Smart came with a beautiful idea.
Yeah.
For the past 3-4 minutes, you have been praises of how
absolutely. I loved the service.
And frankly, as per I know, because we have skilled their drivers, so there are some 150 women drivers which we have skilled for them. The only Delhi fleet owner who is using women as drivers. So overall, it was a great concept. It is. I'm not still writing it off. It is still a great concept, and on the ride-hailing cab services, they are still the best. But obviously, there is a lot of systems where the audits are done, internal audits, external audits. Then SEBI is involved. Then ROC is involved. There are a lot of such audits which happen time to time to different companies wherever, and practically these big investors who have invested in Blue Smart or Gensol or even WRT, they regularly get the data and do the audits. I don't know how everybody or every institution involved in the funding of Blue Smart or these two companies could go wrong in one way. It's really tough to understand, and if this was happening for past an year or so, what the SEBI reports, it's a difficult thing to understand, because as per report, every quarter they have to send the reports to media, to social, to analysts, to their share providers, even their investors. Somewhere I think they have gone wrong, had a very good project, but intentions went wrong with maybe some other proposal or the project they were doing.
They started with the right intentions, a lot of money came, then they got greedy, then money was diverted to buy their fancy luxury items and thought they'll get away with it. But then, this clearly shows that they're not seasoned. They may have had a great idea, but money came in and their mind wandered. That's what it appears to me. Like I did say, and you said, it is a great product. Blue Smart has the best service, so they may have had great intentions, but I would not believe that this wasn't calculated. Diverting funds to buy their own luxury is not something that can happen by mistake, right? It was calculated efforts, and we hear there was a lot of money that moved from Gensol to that Velray company, and Velray eventually using Gensol's money to buy Gensol stocks. So they were doing insider trading, which is again illegal. So I'm saying in every layer of this probe here, it shows intent which is not right. Mahindra Swar, would you agree?
I don't know if you remember, in between there was a discussion about all the vehicles which have been leased by Gensol to Blue Smart shifting to Velray company of Bangalore, where the vehicle ownership was being shifted, and they will now lease to Blue Smart, which is again an insider thing. Both companies owned by similar kind of people. It's also, you're right, there has been some calculated effort and some thinking which went wrong, because they should have planned this in a long way. Nobody wants to get caught if such calculated efforts are done. So somewhere it got caught in between, where they were expecting some.
Which is I'm shocked. How did they think they'd get away? Sir, if you could give us a sense on, Mr. Mahindra, give us a sense on how this scam was pulled off. Does this really expose India's startup funding ecosystem? Is this how easy it is to game the system and hope you can get away? Thankfully, they're being exposed now. But point being, what happens within the startup funding system? Is it so easy to show bankruptcy? Oh, I don't have money anymore. Claim bankruptcy out easy.
I think Venkesh has raised a relevant point in the sense that how could it escape the eyes of the auditors, the investors who are sitting on the board, and especially the independent directors who are sitting on the board? I think SEBI comes into action only when it's a listed company, and Gensol happen to be a listed company. So if when you talk about the startup, in a way, is it a malice in the startup? I think it is, right? And I think I'm being very blunt and upfront that most of the startups are privately listed. They're not listed, they're privately held companies with promoters having significant stakes and then the investors. So I think investors also have a fiduciary duty towards their own investors that the money which has been invested is used for the purposes for what it was lent for or invested for. I think in the case of Blue Smart, I think it was a brilliant idea. They started off as fleet owners and then they transitioned to compete with Uber and have their own app, right? And now when you are competing with a platform like Uber or an Ola, which has no capital expenditure, has no people on their rolls, and is simply an aggregator of services, then it's difficult to really be able to compete. I think Blue Smart was burning cash and they were looking for funding to fill the gap of their burn, but they couldn't raise that $50 million for which they were in the market to raise. And that probably must have triggered the flow of funds from one entity to the other. And when the flows
let me
happen,
also remind you, sir, that Anmol and Puneet Jaggi, both of them have moved nearly 25 crores and 11 crores separately for their personal use. None of that was used for business.
Right.
They
Yes,
diverted it for personal use. This I'm saying in addition to all the other purchases that I've mentioned.
Yeah, how it all starts. This is all how this all starts. The intention is to probably save their pet project, which is Blue Smart. And when they find it that it's so easy to move around in the Indian system, then there are a few crores here and there being used for their personal purposes. They believe that they'll not get discovered. Right? SEBI is an extremely good regulator, and we are fortunate to have one regulator like SEBI, which actually discovered this, what was happening in a listed company. But we don't have a regulator for a privately held startup ecosystem, right? And lots and tons of money from the government are flowing into startups. You know that there's a fund of funds of 10,000 crores and another 10,000 crores has been put into the budget now this year, which SIDBI will be managing and giving it to the VC funds, who will then go ahead and invest in these kind of early stage emerging technology startups. But without a regulator, this could happen with anyone. I think founders are young, are in a rush, are in a hurry, right? And they don't have what we call mature board of directors. I think one of the things which I think SEBI should regulate is that if it's an AIF fund which has invested in any of these startups, they should be very well regulated. Not only the AIF fund should be regulated, but even the companies in which and the startups which they are investing need to be regulated in some fashion or the other, in terms of that the AIF or the investment managers, as they call it, should be held responsible for anything which can happen, which happened with Blue Smart. I think it's not only public money which is at stake, it's also a lot of private money which is at stake. There are a lot of angel investors who have invested with Blue Smart when it started off, right? So all of those people will have such a shock, they would have to write off their investments, and then the whole ecosystem gets impacted.
You know, but I'll tell you why this is very disappointing, sir. Vinkesh, maybe you can add why this is very disappointing is because the Indian government heavily supported EV innovation and pushed the project. They found support, the founders found support in the government. How many of us can really boast of having connections in the government, having, the government back you, push your EV project, because there's a vision. India has a vision. We want to turn into clean green energy. And here you have a few people there doing it, claiming to do great things in EV, and then faking it. They've in fact faked. Gensol's buzz was nearly 30,000 EVs have already been pre-sold, basically claiming that we are making it for many companies. Some MOUs were signed, but that's it. Nothing happened. Their actual production plant was defunct. None of it worked. The electricity bills at that factory was apparently negligible. There was hardly anybody in that factory. So it was all fake. In my view, this is lying, gaming the system, inherently cheating every layer of the system here. And I don't see why this is not calculated.
So even sir has agreed and even I have agreed. What we are saying is 100% right. But obviously, like there are a lot of auditing bodies and regulatory bodies. But the position, like you said, the electric vehicle is the buzzword today. If you are involved in an EV, you are easily invited to the panels or even government meetings and all that. And every minister or department wants to align themselves with electric vehicle people if involved in battery or Blue Smart was really an ideal EV platform where everybody would want to back on and everybody would want to invest in. So they got everything very easily, I feel, on the on a plate of easy things. So that is how somewhere going down the line they started well and then they got the intentions bad. I don't think so. They calculated like this from the first day when they launched Gensol or Blue Smart. But going further, the easy funds they got because of the EV platform and the EV hype and the government support because of the EV hype. They thought this is very easy and there are no set of daily controls. And you should agree, these are all startups. They are not very legacy owned players where they normally work on their own funds more than the borrowing. Startups today work purely on debts and
just a quick look at the design. I'm sorry to interrupt. Just a quick look at the design, Mr. Mahendra. We are looking at Gensol that was manufacturing these EV vehicles owned by the Jaggi brothers. That was leasing the same EV vehicles to the Blue Smart company, again owned by the Jaggi brothers. So these are two companies. One is attempting to make one and lease to the other company, but owned by the same family. So the design itself looked suspicious right from the start. How did agencies fail to notice that? How can something like this be clamped down, right? Investors' money be protected, taxpayers' money be protected.
I think you're absolutely right. From the beginning, I think there was a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
You can have a manufacturing unit and lease it out to your another company and then same. I think it's not only a failure or the intention. I think there is no doubt that they got greedy down the road and intentions are not what they should be of a good, mature, forward-looking founder. I think at the same time, besides the Jaggi brothers, I think that there are other three stakeholders who should also be held responsible by SEBI. The auditors themselves. The auditors, how can they skip such a glaring things which are coming to light? As you rightly said, there was nothing in the factory. The electricity bills were negligible, right? Instead of 6,000 odd vehicles to be bought, only 4,000 were bought. How about the auditor signing such kind of fake audit reports? And then secondly, what were the board of directors doing? What were the independent directors doing? And what's the point of SEBI regulating
CFO
that?
resigned recently. Obviously, he did not want to get into legal trouble, I presume. He resigned. And there were ICRA and those reports, their ratings were showing that they were defaulting on loans. So it became alarmingly clear. And in the last 1 year, this scam has been exposed. It hasn't happened overnight, but it's taken about a year because there's big money involved. But as a final question, as I'm short on time, either one of you would want to answer, how do we protect the employees? Nearly 1,200, 300 drivers who are associated with Blue Smart, unlike other cab aggregators where they own their cabs and tie up with the aggregator. Here, Blue Smart EVs are owned by the Jaggi brothers. So they're now left without a job altogether.
I think all these vehicles would be, I think, hypothecated to a bank. That's what I suppose. I think one of the ways it could be done is that these vehicles are transferred to the drivers. They are given loans and then they buy these and they become like any other Uber or a Ola driver owning the vehicle. Right? That is one way of looking at it. And then they get attached to Ola and Uber, and so they can save their livelihood. And also, the cars don't go into in a dump yard because they're seized by either any of the regulators or the banks. Right? So I think immediately, I think someone has to be innovative enough to find a way that these 1,500 odd drivers are not let to be on their own and the vehicles go and rust. I think that will be the worst thing which could happen to such a novel cause, which the Jaggi brothers probably started off with. So I would strongly urge the government or anyone who comes, even Nama Yatri, which is the platform for aggregators now on ONDC, which is supported by the government, they can take it over. I think any of these three aggregators should actually be encouraged to take these fleet over along with the drivers. That's one way. And I think it's an excellent service, as you started off by saying in your program. It's an excellent service. It'll be so sad. That's such.
I'm the most disappointed. I was very passionate about having this story and with expert opinions here. We're really hoping that Uber absorbs BlueSmart as claimed, and that happens at the earliest, because you see many of them and their jobs will now be in limbo.
I think ownership of the cars have to move on to the drivers. I think let's be fair about it.
That would be a jackpot.
The thing is, but they would end up paying it to the bank, which bails it out.
If they can afford it, yeah. All right. Final word, Venkesh. The Jaggi brothers, what kind of legal implications could they face? I mean, this is, at the end of it, a case that they can tie in.